A 95-pound chocolate Doberman that an entire street in Naperville, Illinois called dangerous refused to sleep anywhere but outside a newborn's door, every single night for 19 months. And what a baby monitor recorded at 2:47 a.m. on the worst night of that family's life proved that all 30 of those whispering neighbors had been wrong about him from day one. His name was Cooper, a 95-pound chocolate and tan Doberman with razor ears that stood like watchtowers, a coat the color of dark coffee, and eyes that made grown men step aside. He looked like a warning. He had been treated like one his whole life. Before he ever found the Hendersons, Cooper had been the dog nobody on Eagle Crest Drive wanted living next door. The mailman left packages at the end of the driveway. The woman 3 houses down crossed the street with her stroller rather than walk past his fence. At a neighborhood meeting in the spring, someone said out loud what everyone had been thinking, that a dog like that and a baby on the way was a tragedy waiting to happen. Daniel Henderson sat in that meeting and said nothing. He was 34, an architect, the kind of man who measured twice and spoke once. His wife Rebecca was 7 months pregnant and exhausted in the specific way of a woman carrying a first child into a house full of opinions. They had adopted Cooper 14 months earlier from a rescue in Aurora, where he had been surrendered with a single line on the intake form, too intense for a family environment. 3 previous homes had said the same thing in different words. He stares, he guards, he won't stop watching the door. What none of those families understood, and what the Hendersons were about to learn, is that a Doberman without something to protect is just a heart with nowhere to put itself. Cooper had spent his whole life being feared for a job nobody would let him do. When Rebecca first came home pregnant, something in Cooper shifted that Daniel couldn't quite name. He started following her. Not anxiously, not the frantic pacing the rescue had warned about. He moved like a shadow that had finally found a reason to exist. When she sat, he lay across the doorway of whatever room she was in. When she climbed the stairs, he positioned himself 1 step below her, a 95-pound safety rail with a heartbeat. Daniel mentioned it to their vet, a no-nonsense woman named Dr. Patel, who had worked with the breed for 20 years. She wasn't surprised. Dobermans were developed in 1890s Germany by a tax collector who needed protection on dangerous routes. Loyalty isn't a trick you teach them, it's the entire architecture of who they are. He knows, she told Daniel. He knew before you told anyone. Their daughter Nora was born on a cold Thursday in October at 6:42 a.m., 6 pounds, 9 ounces. 3 weeks early, with a cry so small it barely filled the delivery room. Rebecca's mother begged them over the phone to board the dog before they brought the baby home. Daniel's own brother forwarded 3 articles about breed-related incidents. The internet had warned them. The neighborhood had warned them. Even the pediatrician raised a careful eyebrow when they mentioned a Doberman in the house. But Daniel remembered the way Cooper had walked 1 step below Rebecca on every staircase for 3 months, and he made a decision. They brought Nora home on a Saturday. Cooper was waiting in the front hall, sitting perfectly still, exactly where Daniel had asked him to wait. Daniel lowered the car seat slowly to the floor. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then Cooper arose, crossed the hall in 4 careful steps, lowered his enormous head until his nose was an inch from the blanket, and breathed in. He held there for 4 seconds. Then he stepped back, lay down beside the car seat, and let out a long exhale, the sound of a dog who had finally been handed the one thing he was built for. He did not leave that spot for 6 hours. The first month rewrote everything the neighborhood believed, though the neighborhood didn't know it yet. Cooper appointed himself to a schedule no one had taught him. When Nora slept, he slept across her doorway, body angled toward the hall, ears tracking sounds the humans couldn't hear. When Rebecca nursed her at 3 a.m., Cooper was already awake, already sitting at the foot of the chair before she even reached the nursery. He learned the difference between a hungry cry and a hurting cry faster than Daniel did. A hungry cry, he lifted his head and waited. A pain cry, he was on his feet and at the crib before the sound had finished. Dr. Patel had a name for it when Daniel described it at a checkup. Attunement, she said. The best ones don't guard a baby like an object. They bond to her like a packmate. He's not protecting your property, he's protecting his family. And there is no force on earth more reliable than that. I notice you're still watching but haven't subscribed yet. Honestly, that stings a little. We pour everything into telling these stories the right way. Hit that subscribe button. Trust me, you'll want to be here for what happens on night 12 of the worst week of this family's life. By the time Nora was crawling, the bond had become something the whole street could see. even the ones who weren't ready to admit it. There is a photograph Rebecca took that she still keeps on the refrigerator. Nora, 8 months old, both tiny hands buried in the loose skin of Cooper's neck, her forehead pressed to his jaw, and Cooper sitting with the frozen patience of a 95-pound statue who would rather be turned to stone than move and risk her falling. He let her use him as a couch. He let her use him as a pillow. He let her pull herself upright against his side when her legs were still learning what legs were for. The first time she stood on her own, it was Cooper's back she gripped to do it. Some bonds you don't get to explain to people, you just get to witness them, and the Hendersons witnessed it every single day. But the street still whispered, the woman down the block still crossed to the other side, the neighborhood group chat still carried the occasional comment about liability and what-ifs. Daniel stopped trying to argue. He had learned that some people decide what a dog is by the shape of his ears and never look again. Then came February. Nora was 19 months old. A brutal flu had moved through Naperville, the kind that empties pharmacy shelves and fills urgent care waiting rooms. The Hendersons caught it one by one. Daniel first, then Rebecca, both of them flattened, feverish, sleeping in shifts, so one adult was always semi-functional. Nora seemed to have escaped the worst of it, a little congested, a little clingy, but eating, drinking, herself. The pediatrician's office said to watch her and call if anything changed. On the 12th night of that miserable week, at 2:47 a.m., everything changed. Daniel and Rebecca were both asleep, finally, two exhausted bodies that had not had a full night in 11 days. They did not hear Nora. They did not hear anything. But the baby monitor on the nightstand caught all of it, and Daniel would watch the footage so many times in the weeks afterward that he could recite it. At 2:47 a.m., Cooper stood up from his spot in the hallway. On the monitor, you can see him pause at the nursery door, head tilted, listening to something. Then he is gone from the frame. 11 seconds later, he's in the master bedroom, and he does something he had never once done in 19 months. He put his front paws on the bed and shoved his head against Daniel's shoulder hard, then pulled back and barked. One sharp bark. Daniel jolted awake, disoriented, fever slow, annoyed. He told the dog to lie down. Cooper barked again, louder, and grabbed the sleeve of Daniel's shirt in his teeth and pulled. That was when Daniel finally understood that something was wrong. He followed Cooper down the hall to the nursery, and what he found there is the reason his daughter is alive today. Nora's congestion had turned. Her small body was burning at 104.6 degrees, her breathing fast and shallow, her lips beginning to go a color no parent ever forgets. A febrile crisis, the kind that can spiral in minutes. Daniel screamed for Rebecca. They were in the car within 4 minutes, Cooper watching from the window as the taillights disappeared down Eagle Crest Drive. At the emergency room, a doctor would later tell them that another 20 or 30 minutes might have meant a very different morning. The dog the neighborhood called Dangerous had heard a child struggling to breathe through a closed door across a hallway, while 2 grown adults slept through it completely. When they came home 2 days later with Nora pink and breathing and furious about being held too much, Daniel sat down on the kitchen floor beside Cooper. He didn't say anything for a long time. Then he wrapped both arms around that 95-pound chocolate Doberman and pressed his face into his neck, and the architect who measured twice and spoke once finally broke. "You knew," he whispered. "You always knew." Cooper leaned into him, the full weight of his enormous head settling onto Daniel's shoulder, and let out the same long exhale he had given the day Nora first came home. The story did not stay inside that house. Rebecca, hands still shaking, posted the monitor footage to the neighborhood group, the same chat that had spent 2 years deciding what Cooper was. The woman who crossed the street showed up the next afternoon with a casserole and an apology she didn't quite know how to say. The man who called him a tragedy waiting to happen now waves every morning. The mailman walks the package all the way to the porch and slips Cooper a biscuit. An entire street changed its mind about an entire breed because of one dog who never changed at all. Today, Nora is 3. She calls him Koopy. She cannot fall asleep unless he is lying across her doorway, and he cannot fall asleep until she does. Every night, last thing, Cooper walks the same circuit Daniel has watched 1,000 times now. Living room, kitchen, back door, and finally the nursery, where he stands in the doorway just long enough to hear her breathing, slow and even and safe. Then he lies down, nose toward the hall, and begins the only job he ever wanted. When a dog like Cooper stares at the door, when he won't stop watching, when he refuses to relax in a house full of people, we call him intense, we call him dangerous, we cross the street. But maybe what we are looking at isn't a threat. Maybe it's a promise we are too quick to misread. Cooper was never a warning. He was a guardian the whole time, just waiting for someone worth guarding. And if there is one thing this family learned on the 12th night of the worst week of their lives, it's that the dogs the world fears the most are sometimes the only ones truly paying attention. So here is my question for you. If you had stood at that neighborhood meeting 2 years ago, would you have judged Cooper by the shape of his ears, or would you have trusted what was inside his chest? Tell me in the comments.